Chapter 16, Slaying the Saboteurs. I used the analogy of your car's GPS at the start of this journey. You program the GPS in your car to your final destination, and the GPS will calibrate to your starting point. It's very important. Whenever you're going somewhere new, you're alert. You're constantly tracking your guidance system with your current location to ensure that you're heading in the right direction. It's important to remain vigilant. Unlike that daily habitual drive to work or taking the kids to school, you know what it's like. Sometimes you arrive at your familiar destination and realize that you have no recollection of the journey. Your mind and body are habituated to the route, and therefore your mind is free to wander. However, now you're embarking on a brand new journey into unfamiliar territory, and this requires your focused attention and awareness of all the forks and bumps in the road. Those forks and bumps in the road are what could potentially derail you. These are the saboteurs. Saboteurs can be the stories that we tell ourselves every day, or they can be our subconscious beliefs. Either way, they're like heat-seeking missiles in that they fall under the radar and yet cause so much damage. This is where a daily journal becomes your closest ally and your map-reading travel buddy. Your journal is where you document your progress, your results, your thoughts, and your feelings every day in relation to your journey to your destination that is paid in full. Journaling with intention every day will support this work very powerfully. Since your intention is to invite more prosperity into your life and become paid in full, journaling will keep you focused on the goal. Furthermore, your daily journal will become an accurate reflection of your dominant thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and outcomes. Everything you need to raise self-awareness and pull back the curtain on your saboteurs and limiting stories. Understanding too that the law of attraction is at work, and what you're attracting, whether wanted or not, is a reflection of your dominant thoughts, beliefs, and feelings. As you journal, ask yourself, what current stories do I tell myself and others about myself that do not serve me? You'll know that they don't serve you because they're the stories that never feel good. For example, I used to constantly refer to myself as undisciplined. I used to say all the time, I can't plan or stick to a schedule. I never stick at things, and I leave everything to the last minute. Telling myself and believing that I was undisciplined was a real problem for me because running my own business meant that I had to self-manage my time, my schedule, my deadlines. And being a single mum, I have to ensure I'm on top of domestic life and supporting and feeding my children. I always felt so ridiculously busy and chaotic, and every week I'd get to Friday beating myself up for not getting everything that I wanted to get done. I'm talking literally every single Friday. My coaches and mentors would constantly tell me to schedule my self-care and regular tasks like grocery shopping, and like a good coachee, I would schedule those tasks into my calendar. That didn't mean I'd actually do the tasks. Come on, give me a break. I'm undisciplined, remember? I'd wind up staring at my laptop, engrossed in busyness, while the fridge and kitchen cupboards went bare. Oh, the life of an entrepreneur. So this went on for a couple of years since I started my business. I'd have little self-discipline blips where I'd get so frustrated with myself that I'd force myself to stick to the schedule, and it would work. Well, for a week or two. During those times, I felt great. I was completing all my tasks. I was on top of my domestic chores. I was doing my exercise and taking breaks. Clearly the way forward. Yay, I've nailed it. I'd cheer. But it never lasted because very soon I'd have a bad day where I'd fall off the wagon. It could be as simple as a client call running overtime. that I allowed to happen instead of having the firm boundary and respecting my schedule. As the client call cut into the time allotted for my next task, for example, the run I'd scheduled between calls, I would drop the run so I wouldn't be late for the next call. I knew I could go for a shorter run, of course. That would be the sensible and logical thing to do. But by then, the little chatter in my head would start to kick in. You're rubbish, you are. You're so undisciplined. There's no way you can stick to this schedule. You've messed it up already. And then I'd backslide right back into the chaos. I believed my own story. As much as it made me feel bad, I thought it was who I was at my core. To try to force myself to change kicked up a storm as my subconscious mind felt threatened and I'd sabotage my best efforts. Also, because I constantly beat myself up for being undisciplined, and every Friday I'd feel unhappy with where I was and how little, quote unquote, I'd accomplished, by my ridiculous slave driving standards, that is, law of attraction brought me more of the same. So my reality never changed. Changing the story. I remember thinking, can it really be as simple as just changing the stories I'm telling myself? And the answer is simply yes. The everyday things you think and say about yourself and to yourself are like embedded commands to your brain. Your brain is simply acting on instruction. I am are two of the most powerful words in the English language because whatever follows becomes your point of focus, becomes your identity, and therefore your point of attraction. You will simply attract more thoughts, situations, and circumstances that match your point of focus. Then you can say, see, I told you I am, fill in the blank, because the evidence is there. Oh, how our egos love to be right. As I previously mentioned, I love the analogy of our brains being like a search engine. In this example, I'm just going to use Google. I know there are other search engines out there, but whatever we type into the search bar, Google will bring back all the references that match our search words. So whenever I thought about keeping to a schedule, I'd think, it's so hard, I'm so undisciplined. As I had that thought, it was like I was typing, I am undisciplined into Google because my Google brain would immediately bring up as many references and evidences that match that sentiment. Like a flash, I'd recall with a lurching sensation in my stomach how many failed attempts I'd made at sticking to a schedule. I would remember the time I gave up alcohol for a month, and on day 28 I caved in and had a glass of wine, enjoying it but all the time feeling like a loser. I would consider my credit card balances and feel terrible, confirmation indeed that I was undisciplined and out of control. Nothing positive would come from my Google brain, and so my limiting belief would be reinforced as my truth. I would feel disempowered around schedules and plans and shut down my natural states of resourcefulness and possibility. There's no truth in my statement, really. It's simply a matter of focus and my past chronic patterns of thought. I can choose to tell myself I am disciplined. I can focus on that statement and deliberately affirm it until I start attracting thoughts that are a match. And no surprises, my Google brain can produce as many, if not more, positive and affirming anecdotes and evidence of discipline as it can negative ones. When I started to affirm I am disciplined, I started to remember examples like I trained myself to run the London Marathon, which meant running every morning at 5 a.m. I studied my biology A level whilst working full-time and having 7-year-old twins, which required an almost military amount of discipline. I have certificates on my wall of qualifications that I have passed, which all required discipline and scheduling. It's simply a matter of choosing the more empowering statements and stories to reinforce more empowering beliefs that ultimately direct you to create your best life. Realizing that you have a choice moment to moment on where you place your focus is where your power lies. The more you practice observing and listening and deliberately choosing to focus your attention on what you want, the stronger and increasingly self-aware you become. It's just like exercising a muscle. It's a well-worn analogy because it's right on the money, so to speak. You wouldn't lift weights once and expect your biceps to be toned and strong. You can change your state and shift from disempowering, stinking thinking to elated and empowered in a heartbeat. But the key to transformation and growth comes when you go to the spiritual gym, do the work, and condition yourself daily. Over time, what you want to experience, whether it's more discipline or more happiness and satisfaction, that becomes your default vibration. You also notice and catch yourself earlier in the process if you're unconsciously thinking negative thoughts, because you're more tuned in to your vibration and your emotional guidance system. As I began to experience a greater awareness of my negative stories and how they were making me feel, I was shocked by how insidious they were. Again, just like those heat-seeking missiles slipping under the radar and yet unleashing massive damage. Journal excerpt day 61. I sometimes get nervous before a live stream because I have thoughts that sound like, oh, I get too deep and I start talking shit. I regularly feel overwhelmed and the churning starts in the pit of my stomach because I'm thinking, I'm so busy and I have so much to do. I frequently berate myself for not being as productive, and I feel impatient with myself, and the thoughts I'm thinking are, I am not where I want to be. What's wrong with me? I choose now to write out in vivid detail exactly how I want to feel and think in these areas of my life and continue to place my focus there and affirm it until I start to notice the evidence in favor of the new truth, the reality that I am creating. 1. I am a confident and brilliant speaker. I am engaging and inspiring, and I attract people who love and value what I say and who resonate with my words powerfully. 2. I always take focused action and achieve incredible momentum and complete all my tasks on time. I never allow social media to distract me. 3. I always have enough time in my day to get it all done. 4. I stick to the important tasks and disciplines that have the biggest impact on my results in every area of my life. 5. I am always celebrating all of my wins because that sets me up for more and more. I acknowledge my growth and my progress. 6. I easily assert what I want when it comes to making requests for help and support from my children. I love the ease and flow of the running of the household and how everyone pulls together. 7. I always put content out into the world from an inspired place. I know that the power comes from the inspired energy. 8. I love how money flows to me and I am growing more and more wealthy every single day. End of journal excerpt. Call to action. Answer these questions in your journal. What stories do you tell about yourself that do not serve you? What beliefs do you have that disempower you? What new stories do you need to start telling yourself to override these beliefs? Once you've written down your new stories, start actively seeking evidence in favor of them. Quick exercise. Change your state in a heartbeat. You can use this tool I'm about to share with you anytime you need help snapping out of a disempowering, unresourceful, and low vibration state of being. You get to choose a state that you want to experience instead. So let's say you decide that you want to feel on top of the world. You'll have your own definition of what on top of the world feels like. And so now I want you to recall a time when you previously felt on top of the world. Perhaps it was a graduation day or your wedding day, or that time you rocked your recital, or when you led your team to victory in a sports day. Close your eyes and go back to that memorable moment. Spend some time flooding your awareness with the experience of it. Really go there, really step into that memory. Make the picture bigger and brighter and more vivid. And then notice what's happening in your body. Changing your physiology is the key to quickly changing your state. So notice what you notice. Feel the sensations that are coursing through your body. How are you breathing? Are you breathing deeply or is it shallow? Are your shoulders back and strong, or are they hunched over and low? What's the expression on your face? Really connect to whatever is happening in your body when you feel on top of the world, and make a note of it all. Next, notice where your focus is in this memorable moment. You're probably focused on things going well. You're thinking happy thoughts. You're thinking like a warrior, not a warrior. Again, note down everything that you're focusing on. And then finally, notice in that memorable moment what it is you're saying, and also what other people are saying to you. Are you being celebrated by other people? Are you saying a strong mantra to yourself like, I can do this, I've got this? Are you hearing happy, loving words, life-affirming and empowering words? Write it all down. What you now have are all the ingredients for your recipe called On Top of the World that you can call on at any time. And the more you do this, the more you're conditioning yourself to this resourceful and empowered state of being. Through repetition, you will habituate this state of being so you can occupy it more of the time. And then it just becomes your default.